So that's innovation too. So when we think about creativity, what we would like to teach our students who go out and become business leaders is how they can create value by being innovative, and that's what the entrepreneurial skill that we want to create. Now, the question about can it be taught is, as I was telling my fellow panelists, everything that's important can't be taught. You know, leadership, entrepreneurship, ethics, creativity, these are all tough problems. So can we have a course, Creativity 101, or should we embed creative thinking into our entire curriculum? That itself is an interesting question. With ethics, we found that maybe embedding ethics into our discussions is better than creating a course on ethics and nobody wants to sign up for it because they're like, I got it figured out, I don't need help. So it's something that we have to give a lot of thought to as educators, because we are also encouraging silos, and we propagate this narrow thinking, because how are we organized at a business school? We have marketing, finance, and operations, and organization behavior, but customers think about everything together. Now, how can, we're the blind leading the blind, so we have to first fix ourselves, and we have to get creative in our own processes, in our own ways, whether that's in terms of the way we design curriculum, the way we collaborate across our functional areas, and the kind of experiences we create for our students so that they can go out to be creative in the business world. So I guess I'm coming at creativity from the perspective of how it creates value in society and what we as business leaders and educators in business need to do. And I want to think about creativity from that angle, which I think is complementary to the perspectives here.
Let me pick up on one thought here. Well, first a story. A couple of months ago, I had a conference with a bunch of business leaders who are not the usual people that hang out with the arts people. There's a group of business people who we sort of say, get what the arts offer. Well, these were not them. These were the business people who think the arts are fluff heads. And it was a really useful conversation. And what it came down to fairly quickly, when we started talking brass tacks, they got down to saying, creativity, it sounds like another one of your fluffy words, like it's a good thing, but that you don't really know what you're talking about, and we're not even sure you really know what the skills involved in creativity are. But, as Mohan was saying, innovations, now you got my attention. That's what my business wants. We want innovations. And if you can convince me that you in the arts know how to train people to be effective at innovating, and you can document for me that they can do that, I will seriously get on your bandwagon. But the more you talk about creativity, the more I think you've just got the flavor of the latest sort of artsy flavor of the month that doesn't really affect me. So let me challenge the panelists to think, and I haven't let them know this question, so this is being sprung on them. If there's a term that is used in arts education sometimes called creativity across the curriculum. The thought of not just creativity as a kind of isolated 40-minute something that might happen in a young person's day, but that's something that's about the whole of that kid's experience in a school. What are the kinds of things, from your perspective, that really would be strong contributors to creativity across the curriculum? What are some of the things you would want to see in some kind of learning environment that emphasizes creativity across the curricular topics? What do you think?
I'm happy to start.
We have a mic coming somewhere for you. We got two of them here to share.
One of the things that innovation, creativity, and there are a lot of buzzwords out there, but what you really want is thinkers. And you want people who can think and solve problems and be creative on how they solve problems in different areas of your organization.
deeply philosophical observation here, and somewhat provocative too, is that the first part is not controversial, that there are two ways to solve problems: analysis and synthesis. Analysis is taking a problem and deconstructing it and decompositional approach. Synthesis is actually looking for patterns and recognition. So now the provocative philosophical observation is that we are still suffering from the Cartesian hangover. You know, this Cartesian philosophy of reductionism. And therefore, you know, if you look at the investment banking world, there are a lot of analysts. I don't see the post-synthesist. So where are the synthesis? Because creativity to me really lies sometimes, and we have created the problem-solving approaches that we're teaching kids rely a lot more on deconstruction than on synthesis, than on pattern recognition, and that is a direct segue to the relevance of the arts, because arts are about pattern recognition. And today, you know why 9/11 wasn't prevented? It was because they had all the data, but they could not connect the dots. You know, and they couldn't see the pattern. So synthesis skills, I think, are going to become more important. But for that, I come from the Eastern traditions, and I think the Eastern traditions and the Eastern thinking is more synthesis, it's more holistic, and Western thought has been Newton, Descartes, you know, has been driven to reduction. So I think we need to think about, and I'll give you a simple example of that. We teach strategy, competitive strategy. What is the dominant paradigm of competitive strategy? It comes from Michael Porter and industrial organization. It's all about us versus them. Game theory, it's about competition. But the future is not competitive strategy, it's collaborative strategy, figuring out how we can work together to create more value rather than fighting over the pie, how to make the pie bigger. So that's going to require ecological thinking, systemic thinking, holistic thinking, and not what we do today, either in schools or, frankly, at the business school. So that's something we need to push.
Hang on one quick second, let me ask a follow-up. What do those challenges look like in schooling that provoke the capacity of synthetic thinking? What kinds of challenges would you like to see across a school day?
It would be problem solving that cuts across the silos of learning, right? So I got a math period now, so if say it may be more experiential learning, it may be more projects that require them to pull together the learning from the different areas and apply them to a holistic problem. Because the nice thing is problems are always holistic. They don't come in neat buckets. And experiences are also holistic. But the problem solving approaches we have are reductionist. So I think if you embed yourself more into problem solving,